Scrapbook in Ethics, submitted by Karen Olita Visaya, BA Ed 2A, submitted to Sir Carlo A. Appo. The basic concepts: ethics, moral standards, human freedom, moral dilemmas. So the first one that we are going to tackle is the ethics. Ethics is a branch of the social science which deal with concepts such as right and wrong, good and bad, proper and improper in respect of human actions. It is a science of morality which guides the action of individuals or groups. In short, ethic refers to the code of conduct. Next, we have moral standards. A moral standard refers to the norms which we have about the types of actions which we believe to be morally acceptable and morally unacceptable. Specifically, moral standards deal with matters which can either seriously harm or seriously benefit human beings. The validity of moral standards comes from the line of reasoning that was taken to back or support them, and thus are not able to be formed or changed by particular bodies of authority. So here are the characteristics of a moral standards. We have here behavior can have serious consequences for human welfare, either to profoundly or benefit people. Next, takes priority over standards, dependent on the efficacy of the reasons that support or justify the standard. To summarize, moral standards are rules that tell us which actions are morally good and which ones are bad. They deal with more serious cases, are sound, authoritative, significant, and impartial, and have strong emotional consequences compared to the non-moral rules. Let's move forward to moral dilemmas. Moral dilemmas is a situation when one is confronted to choose between two conflicting goods or between two lesser evils. Remember, you are either part of the solution or part of the problem. So here are examples of a moral dilemma. Telling a secret. Your friend tells you that they committed a crime. They explain that they are having trouble sleeping at night and feel you are the only one they can trust with their confession. A few days later, you read, in the paper that someone has been arrested for your friend's crime. Here are the choices. Do you go to the police and tell them what you know? Encourage your friend to confess and warn him if he does not do, so you will tell? Next, say nothing because you will not betray a friend's confidence. Next is free will. So free will brings with it the idea that at least some of our choices are ours alone. We are fully in control of them, and therefore we are fully responsible for them. Free will is the basis for moral responsibility, or so many have argued. What does free will consist of? When people make decisions or perform actions, they usually feel as though they are choosing or acting freely. A person may decide, for example, to buy apples instead of oranges, to vacation in France rather than in Italy, or to call a sister in Nebraska instead of a brother in Florida. On the other hand, there are at least some situations in which people seem not to act freely, as when they are physically coerced or mentally or emotionally manipulated. Next, let's move forward. Reflection. So here is my reflection for our first topic. Ethics, in my point of view, would be a logical understanding of right and wrong that sets out what people should do and should not do, whether it be in fairness, virtues, obligations, or rights. Moral standards are norms that people hold about what they believe are ethically correct and bad activities. Moral standards are intended to assist us in becoming better people by acting as a guide to correct the path. However, we will all face moral dilemmas, challenges, or issues in our lives that will put our decision-making skills to the test. Finally, as humans, we all have freedom. But we must remember that we all have restrictions. Just because we have freedom does not imply we are free to do whatever we want. Remember that eating too much isn't healthy. As a result, we must put our freedom to good use. Next topic would be the moral agent. So we have here culture, cultural relativism, Filipino values, moral character, universal values, and lastly, the development of moral character. So, first in line, we are going to discuss culture. So, culture is a body of characteristics such as beliefs, social norms, and ethnic background shared in a region by a population of people. Development and discipline can be influenced by culture. Culture contains values, norms, prejudice, social influence, and human activity. Values and beliefs hold high importance. Next is cultural relativism. Cultural relativism is the principle of regarding and valuing the practices of a culture from the point of view of that culture and to avoid making hasty judgments. Cultural relativism tries to counter ethnocentrism by promoting the understanding of cultural practices that are unfamiliar to other cultures. At its most extreme, cultural relativism leaves no room for criticism of other cultures, even if certain cultural practices are horrific or harmful. Next, here are the example of cultural relativism. So as you can see the picture, there are types of contraception. So here in the Philippines, we do not cease to debate on the moral acceptability of contraceptives. However, in other countries, abortion is perfectly normal. More so the use of artificial contraceptives. So, universal values. Universal values are the set of norms that are perceived as positive and that govern behavior and coexistence within a society at a given time. These values shape human rights. The philosophy, the ethics, and the morals are the disciplines that deal with the study of universal values. Universal values can be shared by different cultures and transmitted through school and family education. The media also have a fundamental role in the dissemination and guarantee of these values. So, here are examples of universal values. First, we have here friendship. Friendship is a link that is established between at least two people who estimate and accept each other beyond their differences and defects. Next, we have tolerance. Tolerance is the ability to accept the differences of worship, religion, language, or ideology, which allows us to live among diversity. Lastly, we have here empathy. It is the ability to put oneself in the place of the other to understand the situation they are going through, their emotions, feelings, and attitudes. Next is a moral character. So, moral character is what dictates an individual's decision making and affect their experiences throughout their life. A person's moral can be based off one's upbringing and environmental factors. So, without the moral character, we will have a great difficulty achieving true peace of mind, making morally driven decisions, building solid, long lasting relationships, or finding true success in our endeavors or career. If we can instill an honor code in ourselves that fortifies moral character, we can send ourselves into the world as competent, ethical, and contributing members of society. So here are the examples of moral character. First, we have here compassion. It is a feeling of showing concern, empathy, sympathy, understanding, and kindness to others. Cooperation is a willingness to help, assist, be part of a team, and help others even when we receive nothing in return. Next, we have here responsibility. It is being accountable for your words or actions. And then equality, having the mindset that everyone is your equal, that no one is below you, and you are treating everyone with respect. Last, we have here fairness, being open-minded, reasonable, impartial, and non-discriminatory. So next, development of moral character. Moral development refers to changes in moral beliefs as a person grows older and gains maturity. Moral beliefs are related to but not identical with moral behavior. It is possible to know the right thing but do not actually do it. In order for us to be of good character, one must not only know and desire the good, one must also pursue it in both private and public actions. Reflection. We Filipinos are known globally for our values, the way we appreciate God, our families, our culture, and our beliefs. We may be diverse in our views, but our values are rooted in our faith, our family, and community. As a Filipino citizen, all I can say is that the only thing that makes this country a better place to live are the values instilled and practiced up to this day. It still amazes me the feeling of being welcome, valued, and respected. It is our values that makes us loved and appreciated from other countries. It is also our values and moral characters that uplift and unite us in our darkest times. Lastly, human as we are, we may differ in our beliefs. Let us always bring with us the universal values and the universal language, which is to respect each and everyone regardless our differences and defects. Next topic would be the act or the moral act. So we have here emotions or feelings, reason and impartiality, seven steps for 7 steps model for moral reasoning, moral courage, and moral imagination. First, we have here emotions or feelings. Emotions such as anger, fear, grief, envy, compassion, love, and jealousy have a close connection to morality. Philosophers have generally agreed that they can pose problems for morality in a variety of ways by impeding judgment, by making attention uneven and partial, by making the person unstable and excessively needy, by suggesting immoral projects and goals. Emotions shape decisions via the depth of thought. In addition to influencing the content of thought, emotions also influence the depth of information processing related to decision making. Next, we have reason and impartiality. Reason and impartiality are considered as minimum requirement for morality. Moral truths are truths of reason. That is, a moral judgment is true if it is imposed by better reasons than the alternatives. Genuine value judgments ought to be backed up by pertinent reasons. Next, we have here 7 steps model for moral reasoning. So the first one is to state the problem. Second, check the facts. Third, identify the relevant factors. Fourth, develop a list of options. 5, test the options. 6, make a choice. And 7, review steps 1 to 6. Next, we have moral courage. So, moral courage is the ability to stand up for and practice that which one considers ethical. Moral behavior when faced with a dilemma, even if it means going against countervailing pressure to do otherwise. Those with moral courage resolve to do the right thing, even if it puts them at personal risk of losing employment, isolation from peers, and other negative consequences. According to Murray 2010, one should stand up for what is right, even if it means standing alone. Next is a moral imagination. Moral imagination in ethics is the presumed mental capacity to create or use ideas, images, and metaphors not derived from moral principles or immediate observation to discern moral truths or to develop moral responses. Indeed, moral imagination combined with creativity and moral courage enables both individuals and businesses to act more ethically in society. Reflection. Moral act is doing the rightful thing to do based on our personal beliefs and values. Our decisions in lives are affected by our emotions. For example, even if people are aware of ethical issues they encounter, able to determine the correct choice to make, and truly wish to do the right thing, they still may not be able to convert that awareness. Because sometimes we fail to do the right thing even though we know what it is and we want to do it. due to our doubts and our emotions. That is why we should always be careful with our emotions because it might lead us to the wrong direction. In order for us to come up with moral and ethical reasons in our daily lives, we must maintain our moral courage and imagination. Next topic would be the moral frameworks. So we have here virtue ethics, natural law ethics, deontological ethics, utilitarianism, principles of justice. So the moral frameworks. Ethical frameworks are perspective useful for reasoning what course of action may provide the most moral outcome. In many cases, a person may not use a reasoning process but rather do what they simply feel is best at the time. Next is the virtue ethics. Virtue ethics is person rather than action based. It looks at the virtue or moral character of the person carrying out an action rather than at ethical duties and rules or the consequences of particular actions. In that way, virtue ethics is concerned with the whole of a person's life rather than particular episodes or actions. For example, a good person is someone who lives virtuously, who possesses and lives the virtues. So we have here natural law ethics. Natural law is a theory in ethics and philosophy that says that human beings possesses intrinsic values that govern their reasoning and behavior. Natural law maintains that these rules of right and wrong are inherent in people are not created by society or court judges. Unlike laws enacted by governments to address specific needs or behaviors, natural law is universal, applying to everyone, everywhere in the same way. For example, natural law assumes that everyone believes killing another person is wrong, and that punishment for killing another person is right. Next, we have the ontological ethics. Deontology is an ethical theory that uses rules to distinguish right from wrong. It places particular emphasis on the relationship between duty and the morality of human actions. The term deontology is derived from the Greek deon, which means duty, and logos, which means science. Therefore, it is only about following the rules and does not require weighing the cost and benefits of the situation. For example, here is do not lie. Do not lie is the most taught ethics by our parents, teachers, and everyone around. Lying is considered wrong, even if it is to benefit or bring about better consequences. Next, utilitarian ethics. Utilitarianism is one of the best known and most influential moral theories. Like other forms of consequentialism, its core idea is that whether actions are morally right or wrong depends on their effects. More specifically, the only effects of actions that are relevant are the good and bad results that they produce. Utilitarianism puts forward that it is a virtue to improve one's life better by increasing the good things in the world and minimizing the bad things. So this means striving for pleasure and happiness while avoiding discomfort or unhappiness. Next is justice as fairness. A great example of fairness is the freedom from prejudice and quality of treating people equally. Fairness determines the morality of many important parts of our society, such as justice or the moral application of the law. Justice is defined by fairness, which means that the law is applied equally to everyone. Okay, last but not the least is my reflection. Our lives are generally impacted by our morals. They are both unique towards each person and are part of what makes us who we are. In fact, it is the differences of our morals which make up our individual personalities. Morals are derived by the extent of which people agree with their society's ethical views. Therefore, ethics and morals are linked. Although society's ethical views are followed on the basis of what people believe themselves to be right or wrong. So everyone does not completely follow their ethics, forming their individual moral beliefs. One's moral beliefs and ethical views create what is called a moral framework. This moral framework represents a structure of right and wrong for our actions to follow. According to this, our moral framework guides our actions, which means that our moral and ethical theories directly influence our actions. However, because these theories vary between individuals, everyone's moral framework differs. Moral principles are relative ideas of how one should behave in a given situations and are what a moral framework is composed of. It is virtually similar to ethical absolutism and relativism. While there are general rights and wrongs that are followed, there are situations where a moral principle is overruled to being wrong instead of right. In short, every person has their own values in life, and that is what virtue ethics is. It is when a person tends to be generous in all circumstances because he or she developed the virtue of generosity. For example, Brick saw children on the streets beating a poor cat, so he took the poor cat with him and adopted it as if he is the new owner. As you can see, Briggs is a good guy, maybe because he was taught by his parents good manners. He rescued the cat not because it is his obligation, but the fact that Briggs is a kind-hearted person. On the other hand, is a natural law ethics, which deals with laws that are universally accepted. So, for example, is killing of a person. As we all know, killing a person is universally wrong. However, punishing a person for killing one is universally right. Also, the ontological ethics deals with the morality of actions that are based on rules rather than the consequences of actions. For example, would be the duty to protect their children. If someone breaks into their home to kidnap their child, they may shoot the kidnapper. They know that if they shoot, they may take a human life. To the parent, however, the duty is to protect what is theirs is crucial. They are not so concerned about the effect on the others. In addition, utilitarian ethics deals with actions that are morally right based on the majority of people who benefit from it. For example, Jervy has a fever and he chooses to stay at home because he does not want to infect his friends. Lastly, justice and fairness. This simply means that we should learn to love, respect, and treat each other fairly despite our differences and defects. So that would be all. Thank you for watching. Once again, good day.